Okay, so as I have mentioned in our previous video, users cannot directly interact with our Google Apps script. Okay, so what are we going to do is we are going to create an interface between our users and our Google Apps script, and that is our web applications. Okay, so in this video, we're going to discuss introduction to web apps by using Google Apps script. Okay, so first, what are web apps? So if you build a user interface for a script, you can publish the script as a web application. Okay, so take note, it is a user interface. It is where the user can interact with your script. Okay, so take note also of the term that we are going to publish. So we're not just going to just basically create a web app or write a web app, but we must have to publish the script as a web application so that the users can interact with our script. For example, a script that lets users schedule appointments with members of a support team would best be presented as a web app so that users can access it directly from their browsers. Okay, so there is a procedure stated here, and so that users or members of the team or of the company can use that procedure. So we are going to create a web application so that they could interact or access it directly from their browsers. Or for example, with our previous example, we have a script that sends an email. Okay, but take note that users, ordinary users, cannot directly access it from their browsers or that certain script. So what are we going to do is we are going to create a web app so that the users can send email through the app script that we have created. Okay, so that we could fully understand, so I created here a diagram. So we're in the how our web app and app script work together with the Google Workspace. So this is our front end, okay, or we are going to call it as our client. It is the web application. Okay, it is HTML. Okay, pure HTML. So it is here where the user can enter data for, and this example that I have is for the email. Okay, then from here it is going to access the app script, the send email that we have created in our previous video. Okay, so that this app script then could use Gmail. Okay, so I have here a mail to send the email. Okay, so this is our client and this is our server. Okay, and this is our workspace. So this is how a web app is going to interact with app script, and the app script is then going to interact with our Google Workspace. Okay, so in our previous video we have tried to write or to create a very simple script that sends an email. So today we are going to I'm going to discuss on how are we going to create this HTML file so that we could send an email. Okay, but first, okay, what are the requirements for a web app? Okay, so a script can be published as a web app if it meets these requirements. First, it contains a doGet or doPost function. Okay, so I guess you could still remember what is a get and what is a post. Okay, so this is on the method and how are we going to access a certain resource, okay, in a browser. Okay, the function returns an HTML output object or a content service text output object. Okay, so we're going to concentrate first on the doGet. Okay, doGet function is a special function that handles HTTP GET request. Okay, so if ever, just a review, so if ever that we are going to access an outside resource, is we are going to have create a request. Now, then it could be either get or post. Okay, so in our example, we're going to have the get request. Okay, the function is automatically invoked when someone accesses the URL of the deployed web app. Okay, so it is called the entry point for the web app. Okay, so if you could still remember your Java or your Flutter, they have the main function. Okay, So here in our app script, we have the doGet function. Okay, wherein this one here is going to be to serve as the entry point for the web application. Okay, so therefore we must have to create a doGet function so that every time our URL is being accessed, okay, it is going to look for the doGet function, then execute whatever is the command that we have here. Okay, now I want you to take note of this. Access the URL of the deployed web app. Okay, so therefore, before any user can access our application or web application, we must have to deploy it. So we have the term deploy or deployment. Okay, so later on I'm going to show you how to create a web app, then how are we going to deploy our application. Okay, so the E parameter, it is an optional that contains the query parameters passed in the URL. Okay, so I know you're familiar with what are the parameters. Okay, we have here the syntax. So just create actually a doGet function. Okay, then we have our doPost. So anyway, we're going to have the doPost later on. Okay, they have the same function except that it is going to access or it is going to process the post request sent to our script. Okay, so they have the same parameters. Okay, now take note. It said that a doGet or a doPost returns an HtmlService HtmlOutput object or the content service text output object. Okay, so we have here, so how are we going to return those objects that have been mentioned in the previous slide? So we have here, we are going to use the HTML service. Okay, so HTML service is a Google Apps script service that allows you to create and serve, take note, create and serve HTML content as part of your Google Apps script projects. Okay, so it is the HTML service, the one responsible to create and serve our HTML content. Okay, it's useful for building web applications and user interface that interact with Google services like the Sheets, Docs, Drive, Gmail, and so on. Okay, so it is not enough that we are going to create an HTML file. Okay, but we must have to use a HTML service so that it could serve that HTML file that we have created. Okay, so take note of the terms. First, we have the doGet function. Then inside the doGet function, we must have to produce or return HTML service object. So it's HTML output object we have here. Okay, and what service that creates or returns an HTML output? It is the HTML service. Okay, so how are we going to create an HTML content? Okay, so we have here an example. Okay, HTML service that create HTML output. Okay, so create HTML output with the code that we have here. Okay, although this syntax here is seldom used, it is because we are going to just write the HTML code within this script. But if ever that we are going to have in real sense, okay, or in most cases, we are going to write our HTML file in a separate file. Okay. Okay, save it here. Okay. So serving HTML files. So you can store HTML files in and serve it to the user. Example is we have the method create HTML service from file, then file name. Output. It is okay, I was wrong here. Okay, HTML output from file. It's not HTML service from file, but it is HTML output from file, then the file name. Okay, so first I'm going to show you how are we going to create HTML file, then we are going to return it as HTML output. Okay, so we have here our with our previous videos, so we have it here. Okay, so instead that I'm going to have a my function here, I'm going to change this one with doGet. Okay, and just in case we're going to have a parameters, I'm just going to have here the parameter e. Okay, now next is I'm going to create an HTML file. Okay, so to create an HTML file is we're just going to click on the plus sign here. Okay, click, then we're going to select if we are going to create a script or an HTML. So I'm just going to create here an HTML, and I'm going to name it, I'm just going to call it index. By the way, the convention used here with google.script is that we are going to capitalize the first letter of the file name. Although you could opt out from this convention, but then I'm just going to follow the convention being used with google.script. Okay, so just index, then enter. Okay, so as you could see, we have here now our an HTML template. Okay, so this is our HTML index.html. Okay, so basically you could write anything here the way we have used or written HTML code or tags in our in different frameworks. Okay, so example, I'm going to have here an h1 hello Google yeah. slash h1. Okay, so we have now have here our HTML file. Okay, and it says that so that we can serve. Okay, we are going to use, we can serve the HTML file. We are going to use the the create HTML output from file syntax for the HTML service. Okay, so going back now, so I'm going to save the index, go back to our code, then from here we are going to return. Okay, so return, then we have HTML service, okay, that create HTML output from file. Okay, and our file, it has a file name index. Okay, no need for the HTML. Okay, so actually, even though if we don't have any of these, I'm just going to remove them. Okay, I'm just going to have my send email. But what I want you to take note now is we have the doGet and the HTML file. Okay. Anyway, if ever I'm going to run, so take note, when I click on run, take note on the execution log. Okay, so it only executed this one here, but it actually doesn't return the web app that we are expecting. Why? It is because if ever that we are going to run this script, the only interface that it has is we have our log window. Okay, so if ever that we're going to go back with my discussion a while ago, project answer, wait, okay, a script can be published as a web app. Okay, so therefore we must have to publish it first, okay, before it is going to return the HTML output object. Okay, so therefore in our case, how are we going to publish our web app? Actually, there, I'm looking for the deploy. Okay, here. Okay, so they could only access our web app if we are going to deploy. Okay, so there is a deployment process that we are going to make before we could see the output of our web app. Okay, so we have here how are we going to deploy our project. Okay, so click there. So we're going to have new deployment. Okay, so new deployment, then we are going to deploy. The script type must be a web application. Okay, so click on the web app, then hello world. Okay, so the web app can be run by me or the user accessing the web application. So this is case-to-case basis. So I'm just going to have first me. Okay, and it could be used by anyone. Okay, then deploy. By the way, I selected me, so meaning all resources to be used by the web app are those related to my account. Okay, so we have here now our web application URL. Okay, so now if ever I'm going to copy, okay, so this is now our URL. So you could see at the end it is exec. So meaning if ever you could see there that it is exec, so therefore that is now our deployed URL. Okay, so I'll try. So I'm going to have it here, then paste the URL, then enter. Okay, so you could see there now the output, hello Google script. Okay, so this is now the result of the web application that I have created here. Okay, so from my index. So if ever there are changes that I'm going to make, let us say please be good to me. Okay, save, and maybe you're going to say we're going to refresh. Okay, but as you could see, we could not see the changes into our output. Okay, so why? It is because every time that there are changes that we're going to make, we must have to deploy it again. You could manage, or we have here our test deployments. Okay, so when I click on test deployments, and by the way, this during production or while we are still developing our app, so we are going to use test deployments. Okay, so I'm going to copy the test deployment URL. I'm going to paste it here and take note of the difference. Okay, so we have here our /dev. So therefore, this is our test deployment URL. Okay, so from here, I'm going to replace the exec into dev. Okay, so if there, please be good to me. Then let us say I'm going to change oh no, we have it here. Hello world. Okay, save. Okay, so if ever it is a test deployment, okay, so every time that we are going to change something into our script, just save it, then refresh. Okay, so again, while we are still developing our app, we are going to use always just test deployment. Okay, now just in case there are times wherein when you have updated your script and you have then saved and refreshed, if it is not going to appear, okay, because there are actually times that it is going to go into that situation. Okay, so what are you going to do? Just redeploy. Okay, just redeploy. Anyway, they are going to have the same URL. Okay, so here we could now use everything that you know about HTML, so you could have it here. So for example, okay, where I have here my bootstrap. Okay, okay, so I'm going to have I'll try to have my bootstrap here. And we have the script. Okay, I'm going to add the button. Then class is equal to btn. I think it is primary. Then click me. Save. Okay, so as you can see here, we have now our bootstrap with our button. So I have used my bootstrap framework, CSS framework, into my application. Okay, so how about if ever that I'm going to have the on click, let's say show I'm just going to button click. Okay, so I have here a button click function. So we're going to have here script slash script. Okay, so then within my script, I'm going to have my function button click. Okay. So let us say I'm just going to create here a div. Okay, div, then ID is equal to message div. Okay, because what I want is I want to display here the message, okay, that you have clicked the button, or you could just actually have the alert. Okay, we're going to have first our alert. Okay, so I'm here alert, then you click the button, save, then reload or refresh, then click. So we have here now, by the way, a notification from this is our URL. Okay, so we have there you click the button. Okay, but what I want is I want to display it here. Okay, so that I could show you the normal or the vanilla JavaScript that I have mentioned a while ago is actually the one that we are using here. So as of now, we have no special code in here, but only basic HTML, basic JavaScript. And if ever that you would like to have your own CSS, you could actually create your own style here. Okay, so now instead that I'm going to have, okay, so I'm just going to have the instead of trying to have the alert, I'm going to display it below the button. Okay. Message div is equal to, okay, so we have document that dot get element by ID. Then the ID is, we have message div. Okay, so after getting the message div, then we have here message div that inner text is equal to hello google.script web apps. Okay, save, then refresh. Click so you could see it there, the app script. Okay, so again, what I have shown you so far is pure vanilla JavaScript. Okay, so next is, how am I going to get or access functions from the script later on? I'm going to go back to templating. So we have it here. Okay, client server communication. So how my HTML file is going to access those functions into my from the JS file into my HTML. Okay, so we have here HtmlService enables client-server communication using google.script. We have the class Google, then we have the script.run method, allowing us to call server-side functions from client-side JavaScript. So when you say server-side functions, these are the functions located into my .js files. Okay, so you have here the syntax. So google.script.run, then if ever the function that we are calling returns something, so we're going to have the method with success handler, and the function that is going to process or hold whatever response is returned by the function. Okay, that server function. Okay, so this is the name of the function that I have created in that JS file. Okay, but take note, if ever the function that I'm calling from the server is not going, it is void, it is not going to return anything, so I'm not going to have anymore the with success handler, but it would only be google.script.run, then the name of the server. Okay, so for example, in my code.js, I'm going to create here function okay, I'm just going to have greetings. Okay, then I'm going to return a text, greetings from the server. Okay, so this is what will happen if ever I'm going to call on this one here, greetings. I'm going to get, okay, get greetings, so that we are going to get, okay, from HTML we are going to get whatever greetings is being returned by the server. Okay, so I have here greetings from the server. Okay, so from my index, so when the user okay here, when the button is clicked. Okay, so I'm going to get google.script that run that with. Why I'm going to have a with success handler? It is because I'm going to, there is something that's being returned from the server. Dot, then I'm going to have the name of the function, get greetings. Okay, so I have here that get greetings. Okay, but then we must have to define here. Actually, we could create a separate function, but as of now, I'm just going to have a function, an anonymous function within the handler. Okay, so I'm going to have here function, then I'm going to have response. Okay, but here with then the function with the response. So this variable here is going to hold the value of whatever is being returned by the function, the server function. Okay, then manipulate it here. Okay, by the way, the server function is, we have the get greetings. Okay, then I'm going to get, actually I could have it directly, but I'm just going to have, oops. Okay. By the way, I want you to take note that this one here is an asynchronous operation. Okay, so it is by default, it is an asynchronous operation. So therefore, we could not just call it directly and return a value. We must have to have a callback function that is going to process whatever is the return statement or return value. Okay, so that inner text, instead of hello from here, is going to have the response. Okay, we have here our response. Okay, save. Let us try. Okay, it is possible that it's going to ask again for some permission. So click. Okay, no permission anymore. So as you could see here, greetings from the server. Okay, so therefore we have successfully extracted or contacted or called the function from within our server and returns a value into our HTML document. Okay, so this is how, okay, this one here, this is how our HTML or our client is going to communicate with our server. Okay, so what we have so far is we have created an HTML document. Then we also have set, we have here the doGet or the entry point for our web application. Okay, then we have also discussed on how are we going to access those functions defined into our server, then display the output or the return value into our client. Okay, so in our next video, I'm going to show you then how are we going to call this one here. Okay, how are we going to send email from our HTML document. Okay, and some more topics on our JavaScript, HTML JavaScript. Okay, so that's all for this video, and I'll see you on the next one.